Mount Vernon Independent School District to order. Let the record show a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. All right, do I have a motion to certify the agenda?
Make that motion.
Kyle makes that motion. Do I have a second? Seconded by Aaron. All four? All right, 6-0. Let the record show that Linda Baird is currently not here.
She's on her way.
But yes, she will be joining us shortly. And I'm going to open us in a word of prayer. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we just come before you and we just first thank you for this day and thank you for a year, Father, another year, and continue to just have your hand over us and protect our district as we finish out the year and go with us through the summer. And I just ask that you be with this board as we make decisions, that you give us wisdom, and that we act accordingly for the best interest of not only the district but Mount Vernon as a whole. Thank you for the chance. In your precious holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, now we'll say our pledges. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, and now is the portion for the open forum public comments. Anyone?
We did have one turned in,
Is he here?
one from Mr. Billy Mars. Do you still want to?
Yeah,
Okay, if you want to come out front.
you can hear me from here.
Well, and Mr. Mars, before you do, I am going to read something just so you have that. I will begin the open forum of this meeting with a few remarks of my own to clarify what is appropriate and not appropriate for public comment. Mount Vernon ISD board policies are the law of this school district, and the Board of Trustees will follow the law. Policy BED local governs that the public comment portion of this meeting. Audience participation is limited to the public comments portion of the meeting. At all other times, the audience shall not attempt to enter discussion, debate, or ask questions on matters being considered by the board. At regular meetings, the board permits public comments relating to the district regardless of whether the topic is an agenda item. At special meetings, the board limits public comment to agenda items. Individuals who want to participate in public comments must sign up and indicate the topic of their choice before the meeting begins. If you have not signed up already, then you will not be permitted to speak at tonight's meeting. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. If you require the assistance of a translator to the English language, then you will receive twice the amount of time if you're speaking on an agenda topic. Sorry, just going through it all. Board policy allows me to adjust the amount of time for public comments when necessary for effective meeting management or to accommodate large numbers of individuals wishing to address the board on agenda topics. Each person is allowed to speak individually. Do not expect a debate with the board or individual trustees. Public comments cannot be used to discuss a specific complaint or grievance. For example, if a parent has a specific complaint regarding his student, a decision relating to a student, or against specific school personnel, then the complaint must go through the process in board policy FNG local. Employee complaints regarding their own work or other employees must go through the process in board policy DGBA local. These topics cannot be discussed in the public comment forum of a board meeting. Anyone who violates this policy will be given one warning. If the speaker violates this policy a second time, then the speaker's time will immediately end. Refusal to abide by this policy may result in the speaker's removal from the board meeting. Thank you in advance for following our policy. Any questions or anything before you speak? Okay. And real quick, let the record show that Linda Baird has joined the meeting at 1:04. All right, you got the floor.
I was going to bring y'all's attention about there's some people that had applied here for a job. Teacher, principal. I talked to McCullough earlier about it, and I was just wanting y'all to know that some of these people that have applied have done interviews, emailed back and forth, done their references, and they're still waiting on a call. They were told Monday we're going to hear from them, okay? and they're still waiting. In my eyes, that's bad business. You're sending the wrong message. I'm not here to point blame to whose fault it is. I'm just saying, in the world we live in, I feel like it needs to be addressed. There's qualified teachers that want to be here. We should hire them. It's simple. They're certified. The principals, for instance, the man that applied, you know, I talked to McCullough about it. We've got to get these kids in the middle school, and y'all all understand, y'all have kids. Nothing wrong with a woman. My mama, she could run this place, okay? But kids react to men, okay? You all know it in your kids that sometimes you have to be the man of the situation. And I feel like with the things that I've heard from the community and friends, of course, you know, I'm kin to half the people in Franklin County. So there's an issue with kids bullying, kids not respecting teachers, administrators, and I feel like that's an issue. I'm not saying that a woman can't do the job, but you know and I know that a man's presence in a deal with kids, they're going to stand down, okay? Because 50% of these kids that go through that middle school, they do not have a daddy. You all know that. And we're just Franklin County. I feel like that needs to be addressed. Like I said, nothing against any female administrator or teacher, but I feel like that needs to be addressed. And calling people back. You don't like being left on red on a text message. It makes me mad when I see that you've read it and you won't message me back. When we know that everyone here has that phone in their hand at all times. I don't care where you work, you have your phone. It's not too hard to pick it up and say, hey, I'll get back with you. Follow up. Follow up with the applicants. Follow up with whoever is in charge. I just feel like that's an issue, and it's not the HR department's fault. It's the whole campus. Every campus we've got that people have applied to have yet to get a call back. And this was Monday of this week. Today's Thursday. And I did clarify with one of the teachers as of about an hour ago, she's still waiting on the call. In my eyes, and I'm just an old poor farm boy from Mount Vernon. In my eyes, that's poor and bad business. And if you're running a Fortune 500 company, your head would roll. It's that simple, you know. I want to bring that to your attention. Take it, leave it. I don't really care, but I just feel like that y'all need to address the subject and handle it. We've got people that want to be here, y'all. I know we have over 40 teachers leave here every year. We can't please everybody, but we can figure out what to do to keep them. And in the world we live in, it's about the all-American dollar. And I know that we've got money, and I know what we pay people here. It's not that they're getting chicken feed. People are making dang good money, a heck of a lot more money than I make. So I just want y'all to look into that, and I appreciate y'all letting me talk. And if you need me, you know where most of y'all know where I live. And I do not mind talking. So thank y'all for y'all's time.
Thank you, Mr. Mars. Thank you. All right, we are actually going to move not action item, but agenda item number 7 to before our action items. So we are now at 1:09, going to convene to close session for personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 55.074 and to address legal concerns, implications, and questions regarding the posted agenda items pursuant to Section Government Code 551.071 at 1:09. It is 3:36 and we are convening back from reconvening into open session to consider matters discussed in closed session. Let the record show that Linda Baird has stepped out at 3:36. And we are going to move action item B, the discussion and possible approval of options presented by Hellas for home football stands in front of A. And Drew, you're here from Hellas.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, and I'm gonna open up this conversation before you go. We have an issue with the stands. Y'all are owning that. That is all on y'all. So this is a kind of a two-part discussion for me, and the board can interject as they see fit. But one, the options obviously moving forward and what we need to do as a district, and then two, there is the concern for moving forward as we know everyone makes mistakes. We don't expect perfect, but the stands did get basically all the way done before anyone said, hey, we've got to. So with that, moving forward, what quality measures can we put in place to make sure that we are catching things on the front end and what that's going to look like too moving forward? So if you'll address that kind of a two-part question.
Sure. Yeah, so obviously, do you want me to kind of walk through what happened?
Yeah,
Just
if
what
you'll
the
walk
options
through
were.
that, kind of start from there and then options moving forward, that'd be great.
So, this all came to a head Wednesday afternoon last week. I was walking the front of those bleachers. I was meeting with the bleacher guy, basically discussing, our process for finishing. I was walking the south end of the bleachers. I noticed we had about 7 inches of gap between the face of the curb and the face of the steel of the bleachers. As I walked to the north end, I noticed that the face of the steel was not only across the curb, but right on top of the outside white line of lane 8 of the track. Obviously, the entire face was meant to abut parallel to the existing track curb. So at that point, Thursday morning, I got into the office, verified. We knew it was one of 3 things. Either the civil CAD file that we used to lay out was incorrect, or it was laid out incorrectly, or the concrete subcontractor that constructed these spread footing foundations for the bleachers did so incorrectly. So I opened that civil CAD file, and the issue was there. Obviously, that came from a third-party civil engineer that we hired, so that's on us. He submits plans in the CAD file to us to review. We did. Obviously, design did not catch that. That's completely on us. In their defense, it would have been incredibly hard to find because you're talking about a matter of 7 inches over a very large site. He could have looked at that CAD file for 3 days, and if he wasn't looking specifically for that, it would have been very hard to find. But like I said, we are the reviewers. You trusted us to design it, and we trusted this, so it all falls back squarely on us. At that point, I reached out to the bleacher contractor to figure out, okay, what are our options, if any, that we have. Once we got that squared away, obviously contacted Dr. McCullough late Thursday afternoon. Typed that all out in writing. I know it was a lot for him to digest and put together. So typed that all out Thursday evening and sent to him. Options going forward, I'll put it bluntly, there aren't any good ones. I think the best way to move forward is to completely disassemble, correct the spread footing foundations, postpone starting the buildings until we have re-erected the bleachers correctly to the point that we can get in underneath them and start the buildings. Any other option that we could present or discuss beyond that would be temporary, and schedule-wise it wouldn't gain us anything, because at the end of the day, when we came back to make it right and correct it, the buildings still would have to be adjusted, so we still wouldn't be able to start the buildings. So we can discuss any options you guys want, but I don't see a good one at all. The best one seems to be we move forward immediately with correcting it, full stop, from the bottom up. Measures going forward to make sure that we're correct the rest of the way. I think it's pretty simple. We need internally to very scrupulously review why we've missed this in our internal review in our design department. Not only that, but obviously going forward, we need a lot more eyes on site, a lot sharper eyes on site. It's something that was impossible to see until the steel was erected, because the layout of the spread footings was completely correct. They were constructed completely correctly. So you're talking, like I said, a few inches over a very large area. So we field measured the next morning to verify that our spread footings were all laid out correctly relative to each other, which they were. But once that steel was up, it was pretty blatant that there was a big issue.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying more on-site visits from you guys
Yes.
through
correct.
the work of the project?
Yeah, and a lot of it too, obviously, we have been burned by this civil guy, so we need to make sure we're not going back to him for anything that we do needs to be incredibly heavily reviewed. But yeah, that's a lot of internal stuff we've got to examine and look at.
What is the timetable for that? Because you're saying disassemble and
Yes.
have to restart and get it right, which I think we absolutely want. We want to do this the right way. So what does that do to the timetable?
So if we started tomorrow, you'd be looking at about a week and a half to disassemble, take down the steel, another week and a half to 2 weeks to correct the spread footing foundations. I've been back and forth the last couple of days with the structural engineer to verify exactly how we need to correct those, whether it's completely blow up and get out the entire spread footings themselves, or just cut the tops off, set the top slightly off to the side, re-dowel into those foundations, and set new tops on them, which are the anchor bolts that hold the beams for the bleachers in place. He responded and said that would be fine. He just had a couple clarifications on that, which I made. And so total, you're looking at probably 4 weeks to tear down and redo the foundations correctly. After that, you're looking at another 6 to 8 weeks to reconstruct the bleachers to completion. So that's 10 to 12 weeks, puts you at late July, early August. Obviously, the buildings, if we wanted to start the buildings as soon as possible, you'd be looking at probably 5 to 6 weeks into that process, and 5 to 6 weeks from now, which would put the buildings not being finished prior to start of football season, depending upon whether it could be a push to even have those done by the end of football season. So I take it, I mean, it's completely up to you guys if we want to start those and we're okay with having a construction site during football season. We'll do whatever we need to there to make sure those are secure, work around the football schedule. That would mean that in order to keep you guys having restroom and concession facilities, we would not demo the existing building at the north end of the stadium. That way you could continue using that through football season. So that new visitor locker room probably wouldn't start until after the end of football season. Or we could just punt for right now on the buildings completely. That way you guys have the bleachers for football season and we don't have anything under there open construction site wise to be concerned about. And we'll start after any playoff games that are hosted.
But the kind of the decision right now that y'all need is just where we want to go with the bleachers. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
And then those are further conversations down the road
Correct.
for that. Does anyone else have any questions?
So the footing on the south end that's, you said was 7 inches off the curb,
So
is that, and that still seems pretty snug. Is that one in the right spot? I mean, obviously the north end one's in the lane, but.
Well, they're all off. They were all laid out correctly relative to each other, but they're all laid out incorrectly relative to the existing track. So if the track sits like this, the bleachers are tilted.
Correct, correct. No, I'm saying is the south end corner that's closest to the curve, to lane 8, it's 7 inches off.
Right.
The curve, or the concrete foot, whatever it is, I mean, is that where that one's supposed to be, or is it
No,
looks
they're
it's
both off.
too close? That one's too close too.
That one's too far away. They should both be exactly flush with the face of that curve. So the south one's end is too far away, the north end is too far into the track.
So that's normal to have,
Is that close?
what you're asking is having the, your front of your bleachers, the R panel, whatever we put up there, like this side has, is it right on the side of the track?
What you
Or
have
is it
existing,
offset?
I'm not sure. But what we typically do, yes, is directly above the face. You gotta figure the curb itself is 6 inches, the track surface overlays that slightly a couple inches. So your outside stripe on lane 8 is 8 or so inches in off the face of that curb, so you've still got an 8 inch gap between the face of the bleachers and that outside white line in lane
But that's normal,
Yes.
that's what y'all do on all of them.
8. Correct.
I think that's how we are now, isn't it? I mean, if you were sitting on the track with home bleachers in your back, I think it's right there. I think it's pretty close, because I'm like, I guess you wouldn't took it as that's normal, you
And
say it'd be
the
right
press
there.
box and the lights will be done?
Right, yes.
And the
But-
fencing, and the
and
fencing,
the
exterior fencing.
The fencing,
Like, so because the fencing, something will have to be done because fencing is down and there's no way we can control
along
access.
the backside, yes, but it just wouldn't be complete, because obviously we've got fencing at the north end as well that is tied into that building. The new one wouldn't be there. So yeah, it would be complete in portions of the final.
So I'm kind of coming in the conversation late. Y'all are fencing all the way around the football stadium,
Just about, yes.
and you're putting new, y'all are gonna rip up the concrete asphalt and put in all new concrete everywhere, walkways.
Yes, yeah, at the north end, most of that gets demoed around that existing building where all that asphalt is. That all gets replaced new around the new building. All new concrete flat work behind the new bleachers between there and the parking lot.
Visitors bleachers.
Visitor bleachers, yes, we are tearing up most of that sidewalk that runs off of those bleachers and redoing
What
it
is,
along with the
what
fence.
is most?
What is most?
Uh-huh.
What are you leaving?
To be honest, I'd have to look back at the plans and figure out exactly where that cuts off. It doesn't. Off the top of my head, I believe basically everything from the central gate back to the north is what's being torn up. Everything between there and that field house stays as is. And obviously that whole fence gets replaced as well. And tying that into the sidewalk where the bridge comes across the creek, where the sidewalk, the existing sidewalk did just run straight into the back of those bleachers, that will also be slightly offset to the north as well. And that fence redone. We had to make room for those jumping events, the field events on the north side of the school. So, but just about everything from there north gets ripped out and redone flower-wise and fence.
Any more questions? Well then, and help me if I'm wording this right, I'm gonna make the motion that we approve the option to demolish or demo the current bleachers and redo them completely as y'all suggested for the home football stand.
Which I believe was option 1 on the email you sent, correct?
Yes.
I think that's right, that's option.
Yes, and that is all at the cost to Hellas,
Correct, yes.
not the district. Y'all are covering
Correct.
there. Thank you, Kelly, for making sure that was.
Yep.
All right, is there a second for that?
Also,
All four? No. That's a 6-0.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Drew, thank you for being here, thanks for waiting. Appreciate it. Patience.
All right, so now we're gonna go back to what was action item A, and that's the discussion and possible approval for alternate space for displacement of ag students during bond construction. And, the board were doing this, we did vote last week to approve it. I think there were some kind of after thinking with the sticker price. Mr. Craver, you're here for us. Can you kind of tell the board where we are sitting now with, our accrued interest and what you're anticipating to see throughout the project?
Yes. That's crazy. All right. Okay, with this, if you look, this is the, I don't have this one split up. I actually have my spreadsheet where I actually split up both bonds
Okay.
and did it like that. I'm keeping up with it separately. For the 63.9 million that we've got, when you look at the bottom, you can see that once it's expensed, I actually went through all the way to March of 27. The phasing that I know that we've got and everything, I think they're saying that they're gonna be finished December of 26. But I've been around enough construction to know that. No. So, it's just how it is. So I went to there, I mean, it can go longer, I don't know. If you look at the interest rate also, right now we're getting 4.6. I do have it changing in March of 25. That's because I'm kind of thinking the Fed's gonna start dropping rates and everything. And then it goes to 3.6, 3.4, 3.2. So I'm trying to be conservative with
So
that.
you think these are conservative numbers?
Yes, I do think those are conservative numbers. Because right now, we are getting 4.06. Right now, the 13-month treasury is still running at 5.25. This won't drop below 4.6 until the treasury rate drops below that. Then that's when we will start getting less. But this is our maximum amount of interest that we can get. If you see at the bottom, I have an estimate of $3,607,000 accrued interest. Right now, we are at $1,413,000. That's through April. That does not include May. So it's that right there that we're actually ahead of where my estimate was, which is always 50.
That's great.
So
That's great.
That's good.
I'm really thinking it's gonna be at least 3.6 million that will earn in interest, and that's overall, that is both Prop A and Prop B combined.
Do y'all have any questions for?
Through the GMP that was approved by the board for Prop B, so adding the light to the tennis court, that committed us to how much of that 1.4?
Committed is $16,670,293.80 is where we are committed on Prop B. Prop B was 16.
Two.
I have
16.2.
62.
Okay, 16.2. So that's another 400,000 on top of that. Right now, being split the way I have it, Prop B has made 264,000 on just the 16.2. So that's probably gonna hit between 310 on that part, so the 3.6. If you wanna split it up, which is still all just one big pot of money.
All the same pocket.
Okay.
And we have to use that money, this interest money for the bond, right? For bond.
Correct.
stuff.
That
Can
money,
only go
that
towards-
money can, that interest can only be used towards the projects that are listed in the bond.
So if we go through this, we're not gonna know till kind of towards the end, exactly what we're gonna get, right? So we'll just have to figure out what we're gonna do with it later on, I guess.
Well, and I think that goes into the play of why having him here too, because we already are looking as what we approved last Monday for the Ag Phase 1 facility. So, having these numbers and, where we are comfort level, because, that money is there, so where we are and, coaching room's here. If y'all have questions for him, to ask that just to be sure. We want to do our due diligence and make sure we're making the best decisions, so.
And my estimate, it is an estimate, I mean, because it is just a guessing.
Yeah.
Right now, we have 1,413,000, so I'm feeling comfortable with it because we've made 1,413,000, and if you add up my estimate through April, it's 1,370,000. So that's about 43,000 more than what I estimated. That's why I said it's pretty conservative on those numbers. So,
Better than.
Yes, much rather be conservative, I appreciate that.
I'd rather over-deliver than under-deliver every day of the week.
That's good. Do anyone have any further questions, discussion for, the alternate space displacement for ag students? All right, then I'm gonna see if there is do I need to make a motion to keep or just leave the motion as is?
There's no change than what was approved at the
You'll stand.
May 13th board meeting, stand.
Y'all bear with me, I'm still learning how to make the official, so that doesn't need any action. So item C, consider approval for designated signers on Alliance bank accounts owned by Vernon ISD.
Craig, you wanna speak to that?
Yes, because we did a reorganization of the board, didn't even close. We have to change on, the signers are listed as the, officers, which would be president, vice president, secretary. So we just need to redo that, and we need to have it in the board minutes that the board has approved to change the signers to the current, officers of the board, so
Just need a motion.
that's just a motion to do that.
So can I get a motion for the designated signs on Alliance bank accounts owned by Mount Vernon ISD to be the newly assigned officers?
I make a motion.
Alright, Kathy makes that motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Josh, all four? 6-0. Alright, I will adjourn this meeting at 3:58 PM. Thank you all so much.